On November 29, 1947, United Nations Resolution 181 decided that after August 1, 1948, the United Kingdom's Mandate of Palestine, empowered by the League of Nations after World War I, would divide the Palestinian territories of the former Ottoman Empire and establish the Jewish state of Israel. The region was once home to the Palestinians, while Palestine was home to Muslims, Christians, and Jews. According to the proposal, the thousands-year-old city of Jerusalem would exist as an international city, with separate homelands for Palestinian Arabs and Jews and a city holy to three religions, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. These two new countries would be formed within 2 months after the British Mandate ended on August 1. 1948, this is the brief background to the establishment of the State of Israel. Since there was no recognized separate Palestinian representative at the UN at the time, nor was there supposed to be one, only Haji Amin al-Husseini of the Palestinian Arab League, recognized by Egypt, objected, saying that if Israel was born, there would be bloodshed in Palestinian lands. However, the total number of states present was 33 in favor, 13 against, and 10 countries abstained from voting, so the proposal is easily accepted. At that time the membership of the United Nations was 57. This was the first major and historic decision of the newly formed United Nations after World War II. Of the 13 countries that voted against, 3 were non-Muslim countries, including India. The remaining 10 were Arab states and other Muslim-majority countries. According to the UN proposal, Israel was supposed to become an independent state 2 months after the end of the mandate. But the then Israeli leader, David Ben-Gurion, declared full independence on May 14, 1948, before the end of the mandate. On May 15, 1948, the day after the Declaration of Independence, the combined Arab forces declared war on Israel. The then King Abdullah of Transjordan led that war.
He is the great-grandfather of the current King Abdullah of Jordan. After the Transjordan forces under his leadership captured the entire west bank of the Jordan River and East Jerusalem, especially the religiously important parts of Jerusalem, the operation ended suddenly, citing non-cooperation by the Egyptian Air Force for no particular reason. If not, he could have brought the whole of Jerusalem and other parts into Jordan's possession. On the other hand, Egypt, the biggest power in the Arab world at that time, occupied the Gaza territory and entered into a ceasefire. However, martial law continued till March 10, 1949. The remainder went to Israel, in addition to the UN's apportionment plan. Other forces, including Syria, Iraq, the Palestinian Authority and others, could not benefit from the war. It is worth recalling that at that time the head of state of Egypt was the much-discussed King Farouk, according to history. Due to the stubbornness of King Abdullah of Transjordan, the whole of Jerusalem and the Palestinian territories beyond it were lost. King Farouk, on the other hand, did not proceed further after occupying Gaza. In this regard, Mrs. Golda Meir, the later Prime Minister of Israel, wrote in her autobiography, My Life, that before the war and even the declaration of Israel's independence, Israel had a secret verbal agreement with King Abdullah of Transjordan, due to which Abdullah stopped the advance of his forces. It is worth noting that the Palestinians did not easily accept this stubbornness of King Abdullah and the annexation of the East Bank. It is believed that, as a result of this, on July 20, 1951, after the Friday prayer at Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem, he was shot by a 21-year-old resident of Jerusalem named Mustafa Shukriya Susu and died on July 21. At that time he was accompanied by his infant grandson Hussein, the father of the present king.
At that time Israel was virtually alone in holding back the combined Arab forces. As a result of that war, the Palestinian Muslims were expelled from the occupied Palestinian territory. Expelled from Palestine, they settled in the Egyptian-controlled territory of Gaza, hoping to return. However, in 1967, in the six-day Third Arab-Israeli War, Israel defeated the combined Arab forces, including Gaza, full Jerusalem, and recaptured the entire West Bank and the Golan Heights, one of Syria's most geographically high lands. Later, according to the Oslo I and II Oslo Accords, Israel ceded the West Bank and Gaza to the PLO, but retained the eastern part of Jerusalem. Fatah, the Palestinian leader and West Bank administrator Mahmoud Abbas, has no influence in the Gaza Strip and will have no influence while Hamas remains. Perhaps this is why Fatah chief Mahmoud Abbas said Hamas does not represent all Palestinians and is not part of the PLO. Even during the current war, Mahmoud Abbas has been keeping distance from Hamas since the beginning, in fact, not only in occupation, but in violation of the Oslo Accords. The two countries continue to build illegal settlements in Palestinian territory without implementing policies. They blockaded Muslim religious sites and Muslim settlements in Jerusalem. There have been several coups around the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and brutal and inhumane attacks on Palestinian freedom fighters have been taking place at various times. Gaza is home to 2.2 million Palestinians, the vast majority of whom are descendants of refugees expelled from Israel. Gaza is separated from the main West Bank. The only one to cross the Rafah in Egypt legal way, although the Mediterranean coast is northeast of Gaza, the entire coastline is under Israeli control.
Although Gaza is run by Hamas, it depends on Israel for basic goods, electricity, water, and even food and medicine. Because after the 2007 elections, Hamas, not Fatah, rose up politically in Gaza and is still in control of Hamas. Hamas is headquartered in northern Gaza. Almost half of the population lives there. Gazans have been under siege by Egypt and Israel at various times. Hamas was born in December 1987 under the joint leadership of Sheikh Ahmed Yassin and Abdulaziz Ali Majid al-Bantisi. According to many critics, the Israelis, especially the Israeli intelligence agency Mossad, are behind the creation of this organization of Sunni Palestinians as a counter to the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO. The move is said to be aimed at undermining the influence of the PLO, Fatah, and then leader Yasser Arafat in the West Bank and Gaza. Even today, the relationship between Fatah and PLO is not normal. Fatah, the Palestinian leader and West Bank administrator Mahmoud Abbas, has no influence in the Gaza Strip and will have no influence while Hamas remains. Perhaps this is why Fatah chief Mahmoud Abbas said Hamas does not represent all Palestinians and is not part of the PLO. Even during the current war, Mahmoud Abbas has been keeping distance from Hamas since the beginning. Although Hamas was created by Israel, it gradually became a very effective representative of oppressed Palestinians and anti-Israel. Sheikh Yassin and al-Majid, one of the founders of Hamas, were killed by the Israelis after they began taking an armed role in opposition to Israel. Ismail Haniyeh, the one-time prime minister of the Palestinian Authority, currently serves as the head of the political wing of Hamas. The leadership of the armed group is in someone else's hands. Hamas was listed as an international terrorist group by the United States in 1997. Therefore, the United States and European countries are standing by Israel against Hamas. The name of the Fourth Arab-Israeli War, organized on October 6, 1973, is Yom Kippur War. On the same day, the world was shocked by the tactics, secrecy, and innovative power of the oppressed Gazans and the Palestinians in the name of Operation Al-Aqsa Flood inside the occupied territories and borders of Israel. Israel has never suffered such a loss. According to the Israeli Ministry of Defense, more than 1,400 Israelis lost their lives in this attack, among which 279 military personnel are also included. Hamas fighters took about 199 hostages. An Israeli general is also reported to be among them. Israel has not seen the rocket attack this time by Hamas, in response, for more than a week. Israel launched full-force airstrikes that pounded parts of northern Gaza over suspected Hamas bases. A time limit for civilians from northern Gaza to travel south has led to brutal incidents such as attacks on hospitals. According to various sources, Israel will have to engage in urban warfare to destroy the tunnel city bases that Hamas has built in the past few years, bypassing the Mossad, the world's smartest Israeli intelligence agency. Such warfare is extremely complex, especially against such highly trained lethal guerrillas. Both sides are likely to suffer heavy casualties. This very bold move by Hamas has reheated the entire Middle East, especially the region. Yemen's Houthis have already declared solidarity. On the other hand, the conflict could widen if Hezbollah forces launch military operations against Israel in Iran-backed southern Lebanon and northern Israel-adjacent regions. Meanwhile, Iran-backed forces fighting in Syria and Islamic Jihad may also be drawn into the conflict, with Israel occasionally shelling Syria. Hamas entered the field knowing the outcome of this war.
The steps that Saudi Arabia was going to take to establish relations with Israel under the so-called Abraham Agreement in the international arena have stopped. On the other hand, the public gatherings, meetings, and marches are continuing in countries on behalf of Hamas and the Palestinians. Although China and Russia are on the side of the Palestinians, they have not yet taken any major steps other than diplomatic statements. Iran is directly supporting Hamas. Now the whole world is waiting, praying, crying and looking at when this war will be stopped and the sorrow of the innocent people reduced.